Welcome back to Desk Careers. I am so excited to be bringing to you another incredible guest. This is a really special one for me because I'm about to introduce to you my childhood best friend. Her name is Filomena Pietrangelo, and we're zooming out to meet her in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Hey, Philo.
Hey, Maria. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Filomena, let's start right at the beginning and pretend that we don't know each other. I'm not in my Desk Careers office right now. So anybody watching this and wondering, it is 9:20 in Dubai. What time is it for you, Philo?
1:20.
It is 1:20 in the afternoon, and we are talking about your career journey. So let's start right at the beginning. I know where this began, but I'm going to pretend that I don't. So let's go on a journey backwards. Very often, what I see coming through my careers office are young people who are very, very anxious, very concerned about either not knowing what they want to do or knowing that they want to go down a medical path, but not quite sure how to do it. And that concern that what if I make the wrong choice? So if I take you backwards to when you were that younger teenager, let's say 15, 16 years old, how did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
So for me, it started, I had experience with a family member, my grandmother, who had a severe stroke. So I was introduced to the hospital setting early on. I would accompany her to physiotherapy. I would be exposed to the medical, from the doctor to all the way to nursing staff, aides, etc. So I think that's a great way to, if you will, familiarize yourself, just being in different medical settings. So that's how it started for me. For sure, it became a passion right away because I just fell in love with everything physiotherapy at that moment. So I knew, but I did explore different areas, if you will. Nursing was another question I had, veterinary medicine, for example. Also a medical doctor. I think when we think of the medical field, that's the first one that comes up. So being that it's the most valued, if you will, the most kind of impressive title, it's something that I considered early on. But as my journey continued, it was clear to me where I was going to end up.
So let's continue on this journey. I think it's really fun. It brings back a lot of fond memories for me. So when you decided, okay, this is it, this is what I want to be doing, I remember you were very quiet about it. You didn't really want anybody else to know. And I see this a lot with young people. It's almost like they're afraid of telling anybody else because maybe somebody else might want to do this and then it won't be special for me. Or B, what if I'm not good enough and then I've told people and then they'll know that I wasn't able to do it. What would you say that was like for you?
I think the pressure starts early on. I think once you know you want to take the sciences in school or the high sciences, the high maths, the pressure starts early on and you're in competition right away. So that was a big one. Not thinking I was good enough was a huge one. I think it's the pressure around from your peers, from even older, I won't call them I call them colleagues now, but professionals that, what I've been told from even advisors that my grades weren't good enough or it was going to be really tough to get in, especially I was aiming for McGill. So basically, I just think the moment you say it, it's a lot of pressure. And even what we're being told, anyway, back then, this was, I'm 20 plus years in my career now. So my schooling was, way back I graduated in 96. So it's the pressure. It's the pressure around. So that's why I was quiet about it. I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't have a lot of support for that road or that journey from especially academic advisors.
And you're right. It's such a pressure. And I think the pressure is even worse because we think we're competing with the people in our school, right? But we're not. We're actually competing with a much larger global community than what we just know. So that even increases that concern of the anxiety. And I know for our students, because they live abroad and they're applying to universities overseas in Canada, in the UK, Australia, different parts of Europe. They're really concerned about, what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't have the grades? What if I didn't take the subject? So now that you are where you are, and we're going to talk in more detail about where you are and what you're doing and how you've evolved, but now that you are an experienced, very specialized and very respected physiotherapist in the community, what do you know now that you wish you knew then that could have relaxed you a little bit more?
For sure that, either way I was going to get there, whether it be, through many more years of university or a different path, if you will. So there's a lot of pressure to get into direct physical therapy, for sure. This was my ultimate goal. I didn't want to accept anything less, but I think that looking back, that was my pressure on myself. So that's number one. You have the time to take more prerequisite courses, even at the university level. There's different paths to get into physical therapy. Or in my case, I was competing with a lot of medical doctors or wannabe medical doctors because they were taking the path of physical therapy to go into medicine because it's very tough to get into medicine direct. So that would be my first. My second would be just take as many sciences as you can early on. See if you have that love of the sciences, first of all. See what your strengths and weaknesses are, work on that. And I mean physiologies, biologies, chemistries. Of course, I still, the maths are for sure. But all the different kinds of sciences, and see again what attracts you, where you can really put your focus on to see, is this the career for you? So that combined with, of course, I always say it, the first test is if you're able to walk into a hospital and feel at ease, if you will, if you're able to work with human, the human clientele, human bodies, if you will, and you like that and you're curious about that, those are the things that I would have liked to know back then, because I had those prerequisites, but I always thought it wasn't good enough.
Do you feel that professionals, as you call them now, colleagues, but back then you looked up to them and everything they would have said, you probably held on to with high regard. Do you feel that they become gatekeepers and unnecessarily dissuading young people?
I hope that's changed now. I think back then, yes, we were very intimidated. I was anyway. I call them my mentors now. So I'm talking about the ones that are writing textbooks and articles and the doctorates and that now I get to work with. And as a clinician, I'm always as a clinician, but it's amazing how back then, for sure, I saw them as gatekeepers or like untouchable. But really, it's just, I would say now, we're a lot more open with the students. I think the students coming in now are super bright, very well-rounded. I really, really hope that we're a lot more open to the different kind of students that come into our field. And, we just want to share our knowledge. And as clinicians, that's our big role in teaching. So I think now we're a lot more transparent, or these students come in with a lot of research background too, which we didn't have so much. And in other words, research abilities. For sure, they use technology just to the umpteenth level. So we're impressed. We learn as much from them as they do from us. So I think we're a lot more open.
Amazing. Okay, Philo, take us on a journey to where you are right now. I know that you've worked in public and in private. Talk to us about what you're doing right now and how you feel that the work you're doing right now still resonates with you. And in my interviews with professionals who have been working in their profession for decades, as you described, I still see the enthusiasm. I feel it in these conversations. So tell us how you feel after this time and experience in your career.
So first of all, for me, it's always about the client. And I know it sounds a bit cliche, but it really is. I mean, from the moment that I meet, first of all, the first part of my career, the first 10 or 11 years was adult based, so 18 plus. So anyone that I met or, had, if you will, that opportunity to work with or treat, it was always about what can I do for you, and let's work together. Let's get you back functioning. And first of all, that's what physical therapy is all about. It's about the physical ability of the client and getting them back to their function. So that still is my passion. I've used every single kind of modality or way to get them back. So I've experienced, or if gotten better at using many of these different ways. So that's always been my passion, because I like to be diverse and different, and just use whatever works for the client, not just use a recipe. So that's for sure what keeps me going and what's exciting for me in my career. Number two is that I have a certain autonomy. So basically, even if I work with referrals from a medical doctor, with the evolving of our practice, of course, we don't need to be referred to. So I have that autonomy as well. But even in my work, so whatever treatment I use, whatever modalities, is based on my critical analysis, on my what I've evaluated in my clients. And then I have this conversation with the doctor and with the other medical practitioners. So that's exciting for me, because I bring my specialty to my team. So my teamwork is also what I enjoy, of course. And then in my private practice, what I like is that now without a team, I'm able to also work solo and do many good things as well with the client. It's a lot more personalized and personal, if you will, because usually it's home care. When I do private, I go to their homes. So I just have this wide range of what I can do with my practice. And the final thing is that it's science-based. So I don't know how it works there, but here in Canada, we have all different types of practitioners, from chiropractors to osteopaths to naturopaths, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, I get this question a lot, like, what will be the difference with physical therapy? I would say the major one is the science basis. I always go back to my science. And if I can't answer a question, I'll answer it in the same way you would Google a question, for example. It could be the A or it could be B. But if I know it's scientifically, if you will, proven or not, but basis of science, then I will answer it in this way. And so I take pride in that, because that's my major, basically, it's what I went to school for.
How do you think that a young person should prepare themselves? So in Canada, I know that it's easy for a high school student to go do some volunteer work at the hospital. It's very easy to try and shadow a physiotherapist or any type of medical practitioner. They don't have the obstacles that they're experiencing here in the United Arab Emirates. Unfortunately, it's really challenging for a young person to be able to observe or shadow in a workplace. What would you suggest if they couldn't do those things? What else could they do to gain experiences or maybe gain the transferable skills that you need as a physiotherapist that wouldn't require them going to shadow a physiotherapist in a clinic or in a center?
That was my top one. So the shadowing, for sure. We do that a lot, and we start as early as high school students, etc. It's a very good, like I said, exposure to clinics and hospitals. So that's the in-person. I mean, now I guess they're with YouTube and documentaries, and you can kind of follow the life of anybody, really, if you want to. It's like, that would be, like a lot of these documentaries on even medical shows on surgeries and things like this. So depending, like really exposing yourself to see how you react when you see this. Or how do you react when you see someone with an amputation, for example? So that's another thing I didn't talk about. With the field of physiotherapy, we touch upon every single illness or ailment or chronic disability you can think of. The basis of physiotherapy was post-war. It was kind of invented actually before this, with all different kinds of diseases, which brings me to, pandemic we were called upon, as we are now with COVID-19, to do many different aids, if you will, to the human species. So it came about from all different ailments. So if you can see and you're able to speak with, for example, a person who's lost a limb, and hear their story out, and you resonate with it, or you're, I won't say comfortable, but you're able to say, wow, I would really like to be involved in helping this person. So in a physical way, because the physical therapy aspect is this. For example, if you know, in your family, you have illnesses, and it intrigues you to know how did this come about, what exists out there, just so reading up on different medical conditions, and that kind of grasps you. And then, of course, the doing part, which is the helping. Is that something that resonates with you? So for me, I would say every physical therapist, every good physical therapist that I've met has this, for sure, 100%. And believe it or not, some medical doctors, like, for example, if you take a surgeon, what they're best as is surgery. So don't ask them to have a conversation with you, you know, for 20 minutes about how is this impacting when you have to walk to your car, or you have to prepare yourself a meal, or if you have to go back to training or working out certain muscles. They're going to send you to the medical specialist for that. So basically, if that resonates with you, I think that's a good way.
Amazing. I also heard you talking about home care and your private practice, and essentially it also sounds like you probably need to be very attuned to business skills and communication skills as well, aside from the scientific work that you have to do as a physiotherapist. Do you see that in your career, that you've had to learn how to communicate, how to really see that, yes, you're doing this work for the betterment of people, but at the same time, in private care, it's also about being business mindset, isn't it?
Yes, unfortunately, in the physical therapy program, I would say that's what's lacking, is the business aspect. I would have liked to continue on to do some business courses, because now it's very good to have, you know, to be very good at what you do, but to market yourself, or to brand yourself, or to put yourself out there, it's very competitive. We're quite a bit of us that do home care. So a lot of our referrals are from word of mouth, through clients, colleagues, or doctors. The major ones is to affiliate yourself with certain clinics or doctors. And this way you do become almost like a business partner with them. As far as communication, absolutely. From day one, I would say verbal and written communication is, so, you know, I mentioned a lot of science because, you know, you have to like it, but I would say everything that has to do with languages and being able to be at ease with how you say a certain something, or most importantly, how you listen. The first thing with physical therapy is when we take on students is, how is their history taking? So just gathering information from the client and not making your own idea, or, you know, putting words in their mouth. So the listening is key. I would say I'm better at it at work than I am in my personal life, because I have to. Otherwise, I just, you know, you cannot help someone if you're not hearing them or seeing them, you know. So anyway, the communication is key.
Incredible. Okay, so I know watching this right now will be some of our students and maybe some young people in our community who do want to go to McGill University. You mentioned McGill, and they are thinking about studying in Canada. What does a young person who does want to go down that academic path in a Canadian university to work in a Canadian system need to pay attention to?
Again, I would say just, you know, you really, your grades for sure, because the GPA that they ask for is quite up there. I don't know if it works in GPA back home for you, but anyway, the equivalencies you can, you know, you would have to see, but it's getting the high marks in your sciences for sure. Just being able, I don't know, you know, if you have to be interested in sciences for sure. Like I mentioned before, the physiologies, the anatomy, biomechanics, so how the body works, you have to be interested in this aspect, and then the grades for sure.
Philo, let's talk more about your specialty. You specialize in pediatric physiotherapy. How is it different working with a younger clientele than it would be if you
Amazing.
were working with adults?
Yeah. So this last 10, 11 years, I've been in pediatric physical therapy, and it's courses that are given at the master's level in physical therapy, because now you graduate with a master's. I graduated with a bachelor in science and a bachelor in physical therapy. So now it's a master's in physical therapy. And at the, if you will, the last courses you can specialize. So like sports medicine, for example, different manual therapies, but we all have manual therapy basis. We use our hands a lot in physical therapy, and the pediatrics. So pediatrics is a specialty unto itself, because now you're working with developing being, if you will. So from ages 0 to 18, here we stop at 18, in different parts of the world, we're going to probably get there, it's up to 21. So basically, you have an ever-changing body, a growing body, including the brain. And many of the ailments that we treat are developmental delays, genetic disorders, cerebral palsy is a big one, and just many, many different anomalies that happen during conceiving and at birth. So that's the big difference, is now you're dealing with early on trauma.
So I spoke not too long ago, I spoke to a pediatric physiotherapist from the UK. And when I asked her what it was like, she said, you know, Maria, I always knew I liked to work with children because I can play all day. I love working with children. We play all day. Would you say that working with pediatrics is harder on the heart, or is it softer on the heart for a physiotherapist?
Yeah. So I get this question a lot. I actually get it even in a different way. Do you like to treat children more than adults? I love them both. I love them all. But I would say it's hard on the heart, but don't forget that you're treating the parent more than you are the child. That's my go-to. And I tell the students this right away. Everything that I say or that I do, when that child is given to me and I'm working with them, I have the parent that I'm really working with more than the child. The child is responsive, yes, is acting to my direct facilitations or manipulations, but the parent is the one that really I have a soft heart for. So no, I don't think it's harder to work in peds, if that's your question. I think it's just, I mean, for sure, you know, it's you feel, wow, they're so young and they already have so many, you know, so much to deal with, illness, so young and all this, but I don't think of it that way. I think of it more as, look at everything we can do to help this child. And we know, because sometimes you don't know when a child has, or even an adult has an illness. So that's how I look at it.
When you think about studying to be a physiotherapist, what did you have to learn that you think, I don't even use that? We should have spent more time doing this? Because that's a clue that I'd like to share with our students, because I really believe that sometimes we get so stuck in the textbook and young people think it's all about what they learn in that textbook. But really, in fact, in the world of work, most of the time it's experiences and it's being able to think on your feet and knowing that, you know what, the textbook says this, but my patient is showing me something different.
That's amazing. That's a great question. So first of all, before getting into university studies, I would say, if I could, because it just brought me to another point, you know, in high school in CEGEP, you're being exposed. You're just being exposed to a variety of knowledge. You're not even sure what you like the most at that point. So that's where when I said, you know, get into the sciences, see what you like, what are your strengths and weaknesses. So even if you're weaker at one science, for example, I'll take chemistry, for example. Yes, we do use chemistry in my field, but it's not what I do day in, day out. Biology, on the other hand, anatomy is what I do day in, day out. Now, fast forward to university and textbook, everything that I've learned, the program in physiotherapy is very, very, from the get-go. I mean, first of all, we learn massage right away because everybody thinks physical therapy is massage, but it's much more than that. And it's therapeutic massage more than it is the massage you'll go get at a spa. But for example, everything is hands-on once you get to university. But prior to that, I would say it's being exposed. So yes, it's more of how you learn, how you deal with your strengths and weaknesses, how you try to just gain the knowledge the best way that you can. So for that, in that way, it's not always about grades. But of course, to get into the program, it is. So you get mixed messages. And I had those same mixed messages. So in CJEP, there was so much that I learned that, I didn't have to take with me, but I had to do it. And I had to get the grades up there. So like I mentioned chemistry, for example. So once talking about textbook, now what I use day in, day out, I actually say this to my clients. If I take your diagnosis and go with textbook, what I see on paper, this is what I should stop at. But because you're ever changing and because every intervention that I do, there's many different ways you can react. And of course, depending on how I do the intervention that day, so there's many variables, then there's possibilities. One of my specialties is to make a prognosis. And this is, again, not from textbook. This is from, yes, what scientifically is shown or proven to work. But now I have to use my experience in knowing how to analyze, how to critically look at what I've done or how the client came back to me the next day, for example, etc. And in this, there's life. I mean, that client went home and did A, B, C, D. So that's where my experience and my analysis comes in. And now I have to ask the questions, listen again, and start again and set up a plan. So every day I'm planning. By the way, that's another excellent skill to learn in school, how to plan yourself, how to prepare yourself for your day. I mean, most of my day goes into planning. I would say 1 hour, the first hour of my workday is planning and overseeing exactly what I'm going to do with each and every client and writing it down. So those are all tools that I think students could look at, and it doesn't come from textbooks. It really comes from it's basically using education to better yourself, but in something that you're going to be using every day later on in your life.
Philo, I can talk to you forever, and I know we need to bring this to a close. Just before we do say goodbye, I mean, I remember you being really young and I didn't really understand what you wanted to do, but you were always my really smart friend that wanted to go to sciences. You were the valedictorian, so that was quite an academic. I wanted to. I'm proud of you, but it was quite an academic achievement. And here you are today, living the dream that you had as a career. It's not a job for you. It's a purpose. Can you help us to understand the difference? Because I know I always say this to our students and to young people that, you know what, don't look at what you want to do as a future aspiration, as a job work, because there's a stigma that comes with that term. I have to go to work. I want you to love to thrive in that career. Can you identify the difference? Because you live it. It's not a job. It feels more like a purpose when I hear you talk about it.
Yeah. Well, you have the same way of working. I know you. Listen, I'll say something that doesn't really, that not many people, I don't know. I'll just say it and then we'll deal with it. So basically, I used to tell my dad, especially, if I would treat him, or because I treat family members, that's sometimes not a good thing, but anyway. And I would say to him, I'd say, I'd even do this every single day. I can wake up doing physiotherapy and go to bed doing physiotherapy. That's how much I would do it and not even be paid for it. It's not all about that. Now, that being said, I have to make a living and I have to still be my own business kind of minded person, etc. But that's what it is. I love it so much that even on my most exhaustive days, on my most mental and physically draining days, I'll still wake up tomorrow morning and want to do it even more. So that's it. Basically, where I feel that it's different from work is I don't have to look at oh my gosh, how much did I do today? Or when is my day ending? Yes, I want to go home like everybody else at the end of the day. Don't get me wrong. But while I'm with that client and while I'm seeing results or not, it doesn't always go well. I love it. I love to have that impact with that person in front of me. So that's basically, that's what I just feel it's something that you're always going to say you love it. For me, if I get asked to speak about physical therapy or that's another thing. I've always continued teaching because I love it, and I want to pass this passion on to the young people.
Amazing. Thank you, Philo. This brings us to the end of an incredible conversation, probably one of my favorite this week, speaking to my childhood best friend.
Thank you,
That was
Maria.
Filomena Pietrangelo, zooming in all the way from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. We were talking about her career as a physiotherapist specializing in pediatric care. And I will see you all at our next Desk Careers Digital Spotlight.